Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I rise to ask oral question 8922 of the Minister for Infrastructure, Met Services, Lands and Mineral Resources. Could the Minister update Parliament on the current status of the rural electrification program implemented by Energy Fiji Limited and funded through an annual budget allocation? Now.
Thank you. I now call on the Minister for Infrastructure, Meteorological Services, Lands and Mineral Resources, the Honourable Jone Usamate. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise in response to the question that has been delivered by the Honourable Philip. By way of background, the government rural electrification program has been delivered by two implementing agencies. First is Energy Fiji Limited, which is responsible for the construction of the distribution power lines, and the Department of Energy, which has been managing the house wiring. As has been expressed earlier this week by the Minister for Economy, that for the 2021 budget, that approach has changed, and now both the house wiring and the power line construction are both to be handled by EFL for the current budget going forth into the future. Mr. Speaker, in terms of coverage, 80% of Fijians are connected to EFL grid extension programs in the 4 islands in which EFL operates. These are Vitilevu, Vanuatu, Taveuni and Ovalau. The rest of Fiji, their connection to power has been through rural government stations in some parts of Fiji, through solar home systems, solar hybrid systems. Solar hybrid systems are where you have a solar farm and also a diesel generator that you use when there's not enough sunshine to power the batteries, which then provides power to that area. As I mentioned yesterday, places like Tukavesi have systems like that. And also the diesel systems that we have in a lot of our villages, which we're hoping to phase out over time as part of our approach to 100% renewable energy across all of Fiji. For the grid extension program, which EFL has been managing since 2014, government has commissioned around 491 rural electrification schemes, benefiting around 12,648 households, with a total value of $85.1 billion. This consists of around 123 schemes in the Central Division, with a total cost of $16.8 million, 250 schemes in the Western Division, amounting to $41.6 million, and 118 schemes in the Northern Division, with a total value of $26.6 billion. Honourable Speaker, as of March 2022, there are 32 pending schemes from the 2017-2018 and the 2018-2019 financial year of a total value of $18.85 billion, which are under construction and are expected to be completed by mid-2023. Once completed, 2,754 households, approximately 10,000 Fijians will benefit from the project. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, the government is also funding the house wiring component to connect all the houses to the grid, and out of the 2,754 households, 1,258 house wirings are under construction, and the rest, 1,496 house wiring materials are under the procurement process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I thank the Honourable Minister. Honourable William Avoka, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, we have a case with Namarai in Ra, where the power lines are in place and live, but it's been 1 year, Honourable Speaker, they're not connected to the homes. Can the Honourable Minister explain why you have cases such as this? Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, you have the floor.
In Namarai in Ra, the grid extension has been up, the house wiring. Sometimes there's difficulties with making sure that these things happen at the same time. So the house wiring has to be done, it has to be commissioned, and I know now that Namarai in Ra going all the way up to Northern Bow. The grids are there, but now we're in the process of connecting all the house. I think we're done from Silana. Is it Salana or Nasin? One of those villages all the way to Northern Bow. As I speak today, and I was there I think 2 weeks ago, with the companies are being appointed to make sure that people get connected onto the grid, including the government station that we have in Namarendra.
Thank you. Honourable Philip Crisowell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In terms of rural electrification in general, the allocation of budget, it is quite alarming to note that allocation generally in government has been underspent, hovering around 500 million annually, which is almost a quarter of annual expenditure. The Ministry of Infrastructure and Meteorological Services, on average, under which rural electrification comes underutilizes around 48 million annually.
What's your question?
So this underutilization is also in the rural and maritime ministry. What is being done to address this underutilization of funds?
Honourable
In
Minister,
the ministries. Thank
have
you.
the floor. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In terms of, I think the Honourable Minister for Economy had read out how the budget has been utilized. Sometimes we have budget certain amount and we commission more projects. Other times we commission a certain amount, and sometimes when we have a massive thing like a tropical cyclone Winston, sometimes funds have to be taken out of projects that were budgeted to address things that we need to address immediately. When we had the devastation in Winston, we had to make sure that we pull funds out of existing projects because there's an urgent need there and there. Whenever you do a budget is a plan. It's built in the context of your understanding of the situation you have at the time in which you build that budget. But you cannot always foresee what's about to happen. If there's going to be a tropical cyclone, if there's going to be COVID-19, for instance, in which the construction teams cannot move to the areas where they're supposed to put up the grid lines and do the house wiring, you cannot do it. So in those cases, it gets under, the budget is not fully utilized. So a budget is a plan with all intents and purposes to make sure that it is delivered on time. And that's what happens in this situation. But the one thing that I can say, government is firm in its commitment, 100% access to electricity. The plan is there, we hope to be able to achieve it on time, but if situations change, it will change, funds will be moved around to where they are needed, but eventually we will get to that destination of 100% access to power to all households in Fiji.
Thank you. Honourable Dr. Ratu Antonio Lolbalavu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a supplementary question. For subcontractors who are given contracts for rural electrification programs, how does the ministry ensure that they follow through with the standards allowed by the ministry?
Thank you. Honourable Minister, you have the floor.
Before a contract is awarded, the contractor has to show that it has met all the standards, all the standards. For grid construction, obviously, EFL also has its set standards. At the same time, when the house wiring is done, our own officers also inspect. But now that will all be done by EFL, they will check to make sure that the contractors that are awarded these standards, they meet standards up front, and as the work commences, they will also check to make sure that the standards are met, whether it's for construction of the power lines or also for the house wiring.
Thank you. Honourable Simeon Rasovo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'd like to answer a question to the Honourable Minister. In regard to villages all around Fiji, and this is especially for Kandavu, those that are using generators, and we've requested for solar power through the rural electrification. And the government has now hold on because they are using generators. What is your policy or plans for the future, Mr. Honourable Minister? Are you going to change those generators into solar system as soon as?
Thank you. Honourable Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank the Honourable Member for his question. As I said, we have a number of targets in government. One, 100% access to energy. So that means that if you have a diesel generator at the moment and we want to put solar home systems, we will first put it in a place where there is no electricity, because you already have your diesel power. First put it in that place that has no electricity. But eventually over time, because we have a target of 100% renewable energy, we hope to remove all those diesel engines and replace it with something that uses renewable energy. In some cases, it will be a hybrid situation, as we have on the island of Namara, on the village of Namara, in Sanima and Kandavu, and also in Tukavesi, where you have a solar farm and at the same time you have a small generator on the side. When the sun's not shining, that generator powers up the batteries. But eventually over time, we want to continually move towards 100% renewable energy. In some places in Fiji, we have small pico hydros. We have a hydro system that used to be there in Bula. We're hoping to get that redone, and another one on the other side of Honolulu towards Natera, Focus Network. But the focus at the moment, move towards 100% renewable energy. If you already have a diesel system, we try to keep that going. But eventually, it needs to be replaced by something that uses renewable energy.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. We will move on.